Welcome and welcome to Anne's Wonderful Words of Wisdom. Today, the question is, how do you activate your imagination? Hi, my name is Anne McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better business and life as I elevate women, entrepreneurs to go to the next level. The question for you today is, from the principle of imagination, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, asking you, how do you activate your imagination? Well, the author tells us that there are basically two forms of imagination. And when you stop and think about your imagination, think about this. You have a synthetic imagination, as where you take two different things and you create one out of it. The example I like to use is Cirque du Soleil. You have the circus and then you have ballet. The two together creates Cirque du Soleil. The other form of imagination is called creative. And if you think of creative imagination, this is where you are tapping into your other self, the spirit, the universe, God, whatever, whoever the source is that you connect with, you're tapping into that source for ideas. But what happens when you gather these ideas, these concepts, these plans? Why are you gathering them in the first place? Well, start with the idea that all thoughts are normally connected or directed toward some kind of desire. So, for example, when my daughter Ione was a teenager, she had become a professional speaker and she would visit Rotary clubs and different places to speak. Well, she didn't drive at 12, 13, 14 years old, so I had to drive her. And I developed an idea, a desire, after sitting, listening to her speak to a Rotary club that was in Key Biscayne, Florida, on a yacht. And all of the people in the room were men, yes, of another hue, retired, in boat shoes, shorts. And as she spoke, I watched them light up. After she spoke, a man came to me and he said this: we've had many speakers have come to us to speak to us as Rotarians about different subjects. But this is the first time that we've ever had someone to come and hold us spellbound. And you did not know, and she did not know, that we are all retired businessmen. I had a new desire, and that new desire was to retire early and travel the world on a yacht like these people were doing. I had not turned 50 yet. I just celebrated my 70th birthday, by the way. The point here is this: what is the desire, the burning desire that you have that will allow you to use your creative imagination? I should say, motivate you to use your creative imagination and synthetic imagination to achieve the desire. So I'm sharing this as I sit on a Crystal World Cruise for almost 6 months, traveling the world. Right now, I'm actually in, let's see where I am today. We were in Istanbul yesterday, in Turkey. Today, we're in Canacal, Turkey. And this is where you may remember hearing about the Trojan War, Trojan horse, right? Trojan horse. Yes, this is that place in biblical days that has so much history. But coming back to imagination, once I had a new desire, a burning desire, I began to write ideas. I began to really began to look at what will it take for me. This was before the age of 50. What will it take for me to be in a financial position to have this desire? My point here is this: your imagination is activated by your desire. That is how you activate your imagination, whether it's creative imagination, that you're tapping into the universe, the spirit to receive ideas, or whether it is a synthetic imagination where you're going to take two different ideas and then you create a product or service for others that they're willing to buy from you. Again, how do you activate your imagination? That's the question today. You and your imagination, how is it activated? You can journal, you can do creative things such as travel, you can take quiet time, you can meditate, you can reflect, you can review, you can revise. There's so many things you can do to activate your imagination. Consider it like cultivating these ideas. But the key point here is that you must act. You must act on the ideas when you receive them. So over the years, as I began to be on this journey, if you will, of reading and rereading this particular principle on imagination, and really beginning to tap into my own imagination, I began to journal every day my thoughts. One of my favorite books is Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way, where she helped me to better understand how to journal. And as a part of Anne's Wonderful Words of Wisdom on Wednesday, I would challenge you, find or create your own process. How do you activate and cultivate your imagination? Why is that important? It's important because if you have a desire and your desire create ideas, now you must have a process and a plan of action to act on the ideas in order to achieve your desire. Should I say that again? How do you activate your ideas? Start with a desire. It can be to travel. It can be to attain whatever goal you have. But chances are that goal is going to require money. I started with little small cruises, weekend, and then a week. And now this years of planning, but also years of activating my imagination and working on the ideas that came to me through that imagination, creative imagination and synthetic imagination. We can talk later about what kind of ideas came up. For example, one of the things that I began to do is to write. My desire was to publish a book on a daily date with myself. And this daily date with myself is simply to journal my thoughts, having a book to where I could journal my thoughts every day, but not just journal my thoughts, also write down what lessons have I learned? What are the desires of my heart? What am I thankful for? Just two or three things. And then finally, I ask God to give me every day 10 ideas, 10 opportunities. This is how I activate my imagination, utilizing creative imagination where I'm connecting here, but also utilizing synthetic imagination where I'm able to take different ideas and create another idea. One of those I've shared on here before at Anne's Wonderful Words of Wisdom, which I created from reading this book. I took an idea that Charles Schwab had of creating a $1 billion dinner speech. I took that idea as synthetic, and I decided to create a $1 billion luncheon. And I put these things together, and they're 5 years running. And we, every month, except for July and December, we host a $1 billion luncheon, per industry such as transportation, aviation, water utilities, transit, healthcare, all of these different industries. The point is, how do you activate your creative and synthetic imagination? Thank you for listening to Anne's Wonderful Words of Wisdom. But again, ask yourself the question, how do you activate? And if you don't really have an idea, you can get my book and McNeil Factor, Daily Date with Yourself. Have a date with yourself. Take some time. And of course, I get a little animated. I get a little excited when I start talking about this because it is so simple. Discipline that is required to do the inner work is sometimes where we need some support and some help. Anyway, I'll see you next Wednesday on Anne's Wonderful Words of Wisdom. And remember to activate and cultivate your imagination. And you can do that in many, many different ways. All right. Thank you. And always remember,